What's up, guys? I am so excited to hop on with you all today. It is Glioblastoma Awareness Day, and I'm so excited because for our nonprofit charity, Cure Glioblastoma, it is our day to just, talk about everything glioblastoma. And it's something that is very near and dear to my heart. It's the cancer that my dad passed away of. So I'm just excited. I'm going to be talking to John Bookbar from Lenox Hill, which is one of my favorite docu-series on Netflix. If you guys haven't checked it out, please go check it out, Lenox Hill. And like I said, we're going to be talking to John from there, and it's such an honor to be talking to him today because of everything he's doing. He's a doctor at Lenox Hill, a neurosurgeon, and he has been taking care of patients with glioblastoma. And like I said, I'm just so excited to talk to him today. It's a huge honor, so let's get him on. All right. Hi, John. How are you?
Hi, Barbie. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. It's such an honor to be talking to you today.
Well, the honor is mine as well. Thank you.
How's it going? Are you in the office right now?
Actually, you want to know the truth? I'm actually at the beach with my daughter. So I just took some
Oh,
time, like an old style doctor taking the Wednesday off, but it's not a common
that's awesome.
occurrence.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, I was telling everybody earlier, it's such an honor to be talking to you today, especially on Glioblastoma Awareness Day. This day means a lot to me because of everything that I went through with that cancer and my father and losing him to glioblastoma. So I'm very honored to have you on to talk to you about everything kind of that's going on with glioblastoma. Yeah, so I don't
It's
know
a
where to
great,
start.
it's such a great day, and obviously people don't understand what it took for the Senate to actually declare today GBM Awareness Day. But it's a really important day for obviously families like yourself that have been personally touched with this terrible disease, and for providers like us who deal with it day and night as well. It gives us the opportunity to reflect, to think about the positive. We think about the passion. We think about the love that families like yourself went through, and obviously the loss of your father. We do the best we can with this disease, and we're making significant progress. But a day like today really commemorates, in my mind, all the lives that are touched by this disease, including yours and mine.
And so I think what you're doing at Lenox Hill is just amazing. And I have to admit, me and my fiance watched Lenox Hill, and the first 10 minutes, we were bawling our eyes out. Um, it is just such a touching show. It brought me back to when I was in the hospital and dealing with this with my dad and with the doctors, and what you do and how passionate you are for your patients and how loving and caring each and every one of you are for each and every one of your patients is just so beautiful. Because when me and my sister were in day out in the hospital fighting for him, we didn't have a doctor like you. We didn't have somebody who really was trying to fight for him and figure out what really was going on with the
Yeah.
disease. They had no idea. They misdiagnosed him probably 3 different times
Mm.
until they finally went in and did the brain biopsy and found that it was glioblastoma. And then it was, obviously too late.
Yeah.
So
It's what we hope the documentary shows really for the first time are the struggles like families like your own have with this disease. And, we're not necessarily asking for anything. We're not asking for money. No one got paid to do this. I didn't get paid. We're not asking. But we felt very importantly to take the cloak off of what is really sometimes a very challenging experience, not just for, as you know, your father or a patient, but for the family, the care provider, your sister. And we come to work every day within our our hearts full and our glass half full, and we want to provide the best for our patients every single day. And look, I lost my dad to cancer 10 years ago, so I'm sitting in your shoes 10 years ago. So we're all touched by lives lost, but we're motivated by lives saved and days preserved and quality of life and experiences that I'm sure you had even in those last moments with your father that you appreciate and were worthwhile. So we fight for every minute, and every minute's valuable.
And that means the world to me, to hear that. And I want to know how Lenox Hill came about. Did they approach you for the show?
Yes and yes and no. Interestingly, the production company, which is a terrific production company called Ulari Films, did a similar show in Israel in 2014 to also critical acclaim. One of the characters in that show was a neurosurgery resident, and he serendipitously happened to do a fellowship with my partner David Langer when he came to New York. And so Ulari came to the resident looking for people in New York or in the United States to get in touch with to do a similar show here. And one thing led to another. They interviewed many doctors, and they picked 6 of us to do originally. And then as they saw how the filming went and how the consents were being obtained, it's not so easy to get a patient's family to consent, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And so they shot for 450 hours, and they chose 8.5 to show for the first season. So it's a labor of love, no acting, no scripts. We decided early on, and I'm very close with David Langer. We trained together in neurosurgery, just to wear our emotions on our sleeve, which is the way, this is the way we are. So.
But it's hard, even though you are, there's cameras in your face all the time, and you're telling these patients this bad news, good news, but I think it's really hard to have a camera there, especially when you're emotional and you start to break down because you have to deliver look,
Bad news. Yeah.
you know
Well, it definitely took a little getting used to, but to the credit of Adi Barash, who's the cameraman and co-producer, he just protected the patient's safety first, always. No, not a patient surgery, not a point of care was ever impacted by a cameraman. And he really was a fly on the wall. And to this, to the credit of Ulari Films, the patients felt safe. We felt comfortable. Obviously, I had a partner in David Langer, to go through it together. I mean, the credit goes to Amanda Little Richardson, the OBGYN resident, and Mirtha Macri, the ER physician. They were by themselves. I mean, so I give them a host. I mean, we learned so much from each other, and obviously we laughed. And look, we cry in the stairwell, a bunch, and that's okay too. We're dealing with obviously high emotional disease.
Well, and I think every doctor on Lenox Hill is just so dedicated and so and treats every patient like puts their heart and soul into every patient. And
we try, and let me tell you, whether you're in LA at Cedars or in a rural hospital in West Virginia, doctors do get a bad rap.
yeah,
They assume I'm off on Wednesday, and today obviously is a rarity for me, but there are a lot of hardworking doctors and
yeah.
nurses and RNs, NPs, PAs, and particularly with COVID. I mean, these people are really they're the front line now, and they've been there for years.
Well, now that you talk about COVID, how is it going with COVID deaths and glioblastoma deaths? How are you dealing with both of those?
So, early on, about the first week in March, I live up in Westchester County, up in New York, and we started getting the first cases in early March. And so, for example, my kid's school district shut down first week in March. And so I was introduced pretty quickly to the nation's first COVID cases, and they started to trickle into Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
first week in March. We shut down our neurosurgery department right away. We had to shut down glioblastoma clinical trials, and we pivoted all of our resources to the treatment of COVID. So I would put on PPE and start consenting with my clinical trials group instead of for GBM for COVID drugs like remdesivir and convalescent plasma and a host of drugs that you've heard about.
Yeah.
And it was really gratifying because you had these really sick patients who were alone, Barbie. So
I,
just picture your sister and yourself going in and being with your father. We now have diseases, and you couldn't have family there, and you basically still can't.
and you know,
It,
when I was watching the news and I was seeing these patients that weren't able to have their, and I was so emotional because I was like, I can't imagine having my parent be in that hospital
right.
alone. It breaks my heart, you know.
So we kept obviously our glioblastoma patients. We did a lot of telemedicine, and one of the good things to come out of all of this is stuff like this, telemedicine and telehealth and providing. So now I see glioblastoma patients from across the country, and can counsel them not through Instagram Live most of the time, but through you know telemedicine. And so we're providing services that frankly COVID made us better at, which is telehealth and telemedicine. So there's a silver lining here and of course, New York City now is probably one of the safest cities for healthcare in the United States, if not the world right now. But we need the rest of the country to kind of get their act together, get their hospitals ready, and again, focus on our GBM patients.
Right. I mean, I think LA is just not, they can't figure it out.
It's
I
not,
think,
listen, it's not easy to figure out,
yeah.
and it's not easy to understand all that's happening and why it's happening. But I can tell you this, New York City, we went through the COVID crisis, but we also went through a lot of, during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests, we thought there would be a spike because of the heavy congregation, but everybody wore masks and
Yes.
everyone was outside. So the data is pretty clear, regardless of political affiliation, mask wearing does slow the spread. So I'm looking forward to counties like Los Angeles and, of course, Texas and Arizona. They'll bounce back and they'll flatten that curve also.
Well, I sure hope so. I'm ready to be able to go outside again, and
Yeah.
do the norm. But obviously, we're doing what's safest right now. But yeah, I want to ask you too. What does it take? So, how long have you been studying neurosurgery, and what made you focus on glioblastoma?
It's a very good question, and people ask me that all the time. You probably, can't believe how young I am. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a
How
long.
old are you, John?
49, 49.
Okay. Oh
You
well,
finish
you're
schooling,
killing it.
yeah, you're basically you come out of college. If you go to college, you got to do 4 years of medical school, and then a 7 year residency in neurosurgery. And so during my residency, which I did in Philadelphia at the University of Pennsylvania, I started getting interested in some stem cell biology and cancer. And that's where my interest in glioblastoma started. And it really comes back to who you like and who your mentors are. And, it's the old adage, you're good at what you're like and you like what you're good at. And so it just came together for me. And it's been glioblastoma, ever since. And so, it's a challenging field, as you know, and our T-shirts say "Cure glioblastoma," and I hope one day you and I don't have to, do these live calls on GBM Awareness Day, but we're making incremental progress. I will tell you, Barbie, that the number of patients that we're seeing live 3 to 5 years is increasing. And so that's what I tell every patient and every family. We have a motto in the Lenox Hill Brain Tumor Center that's strive for 5. We want to keep you alive for 5 years. Don't ask me to do more than that just yet. If
Yeah.
I can get you 5 years, then we're going to have new treatments because technology changes. Much like my iPhone is better than it was 5 years ago, my surgical tools are better than they were 5 years ago, my navigation tools, my operative tools. So we're improving, albeit slowly. We need more, donations to nonprofits like Cure Glioblastoma. We need more, uh, involvement of obviously not just patients and patients' families, but obviously from the general public. But we're getting there, and I think days like today, Barbie, are important to help us.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like so many people do not know about glioblastoma. And so that's why I was really happy to talk to you about it, and just raise awareness about it. and talk about it and give people a clearer picture of what exactly it is. It's the most common, deadliest brain cancer that there is right now. Um,
Correct.
and I feel like so many people are like, well, what, explain it to me. And obviously I just can, tell from my experience, how that, exactly what I know. But we are so honored and lucky to have you on our Cure Glioblastoma team. And Sean Carbonell, who is the co-founder in Cure Glioblastoma, how he approached me when my dad had passed away about,
Mm.
and he's been studying it for a very long time.
Yep.
And it's something that we're very passionate about to raise awareness and, raise money for treatments and for patients' families.
What I like about what you and Sean are doing with Cure Glioblastoma is different than other nonprofits and even foundations. You're doing research, and we call it the translational research divide. How do you get a really smart basic scientist who may be crystallizing something in the lab, but it will never work in humans? That divide is something that is very hard to breach, and I think Sean, who I've known now for over 20 years,
Oh, I didn't
understands.
know that.
Yes, so Sean came to Penn from the University of Washington, Seattle, I think in 1997. So we
Right.
met, started back then. So a really smart guy and understands and has his own company that has interest in obviously glioblastoma. That we have to bridge that divide. You have really smart basic scientists, you have technically good surgeons, but who is going to it's like crossing the aisle. Who's going to get them together? And a nonprofit like Cure Glioblastoma, and I do the same thing with something called the Brain Tumor Biotech
Yeah, I
Center
want to
out.
hear. I want to hear how you started that too.
And that to me was the same question. I would go to cocktail parties and hear about all these Wall Street guys who were, smart and they had all this money. And then I would go into the lab and see all these scientists that had all these ideas, but they weren't talking to each other. And so I needed to get those people in the same room. And so we started something called the Brain Tumor Biotech Summit, which is a one-day event. And then with philanthropic funds, we built the Brain Tumor Biotech Center so I can take companies like OncoSynergy and
Yeah.
they, for a very, very small price, because we don't make a profit, I can test their drugs in animals like mice or rodents, and then we can roll it out into clinical trials, both across a large health system or across the country, if not across the world. So that's much like what Cure Glioblastoma's mantra is, and that's the only way to make it work. There's not going to be another way. It's not going to, it's a slow, tedious process, but unless you bridge that translational divide, forget about it.
Yeah. I agree. And that's why I think like I said, Sean is amazing at what he does. And when he approached about starting this nonprofit, I really had to do my research about kind of him and everything but I just knew this was a way to advocate for my dad
Yeah.
and raise awareness. And like you said, raise money for cancer research, for glioblastoma research.
And I think obviously the Netflix documentary is a good launching pad for
Yes.
this story. And so one of the things that have held us back in our field about philanthropy is, again, it's still an orphan disease. There's only about 15,000 new diagnoses of glioblastoma per year in the United States. It's really an orphan disease when you think about breast cancer and other cancers like melanoma, which are much more widely common.
Well, do you think that like doctors don't really, that they get misdiagnosed and it can't figure out that this isn't their first go-to? Um,
It's not something the average internal medicine doctor sees a lot of per year, right?
yeah,
So what they do see a lot of, Barbie, are, for example, people with headaches, right? So they must see every day in their office, a couple of people with headaches, but at some point someone's going to have a glioblastoma. And
right.
so
And
our recommendation is to keep a headache diary. Make sure if your headache has changed, or if you're not a person that's had headaches and they become real consistent, they're worse in the morning, for example. Now, I don't want this Instagram to generate, panic that your next headache is going to be a glioblastoma.
Right,
That's obviously not
right.
the case. But we look. This is part of our educational mission. Is doctors need educating too.
Well, I'm just, from my personal experience with my dad, they said he had muscular dementia. That was their first go-to, because they obviously, we knew it was neurological. We knew it was in the brain because my dad was fine one day.
Mm,
And then from one week to the next, he couldn't move. All of his functions, motor functions, speech, everything was gone.
mm.
And we knew it was something in the brain. Me and my sister, just deep down, we were like, there's something. And the doctors just did not want to go in and do the brain biopsy. They didn't, I don't know if they just weren't very aware of this,
Right.
cancer, which
How old?
um,
How old was your dad?
he was 66.
Yeah. So look, this is a disease more commonly of young men in their fifth and sixth decades of life, and it sometimes is a hard diagnosis to figure out until you get an MRI of the brain. And
Right.
we want to catch the tumor early. We want to be able to be surgically successful, and we don't want to do biopsies. Biopsies are
I know.
less good than big surgeries. So, but we also want to be safe. So they're very, very challenging cases. We're working hard in better diagnosis and of course treatments.
Well, we'll bring up the tempo. What is the most amazing glioblastoma story that you have experienced? Um,
You know, people expect me to talk about my 10-year survivors or and those are incredible stories. But actually, I had a guy, I'll get choked up thinking about it, but
you're gonna make me
I had a father from Connecticut who had a daughter in eighth grade, okay? And he was diagnosed with a glioblastoma and told that he would die before she graduated middle school.
cry.
So when he was alive, when she went to Boston College and started dating the middle linebacker at Boston College, I'll never forget the phone call when he called me to tell me that he had been to a Boston College game to watch his daughter's boyfriend play. Those kind of things stay with you a long time. We have a lot of long-term survivors, but when I hear stories about a father who saw his daughter go to the prom and then go to college, and again, we fight for every year because in that year there are a lot of good memories.
Oh, I'm crying. um, that's so. I was so lucky to have so many great experiences with my dad. Things that he got when I wrestled for WWE, and he was my biggest fan. He got to
Mm,
see me at WrestleMania wrestle in front of millions of people,
yeah,
um, and 80,000 people in the stands cheering my name. So that I knew, I had made him proud. And so,
of course.
it's stories like what about the daughter and the boy and going to see and the football game, and it's little
Yeah.
moments like that that really,
I mean, you may remember even in the Netflix documentary, and there are a lot of stories that weren't shared because there are so many hours of footage. And honestly, we hope there's a season two, whether there is or there isn't. But even just getting a patient alive so he can go to his daughter's wedding
yeah,
4 months later. And you know that not every patient has the same will to either fight or survive, if you will. So it takes a lot of counseling, it takes a lot of experience, it takes a lot of empathy to really know. Look, when my dad got sick, he said to me, John, and I got three other siblings, and he said to us and my mother, he said, I don't care if I'm told I have a terminal illness, just keep me alive for 6 months, put on ESPN on the TV, and give me a chance. But every patient's different, and you have to really listen to what they want and what their wishes are. And we spend a lot of time. We have an oncopsychologist speak to our patients. We have huge social services and obviously clergy become a big part. We practice yoga and mindfulness with our patients. And so we do everything we can to make it a little bit easier for them.
yeah. And that was going to be one of my questions, is how you were able to help kind of the families cope and deal with the day in and day outs of not knowing things and just kind of taking it a day at a time. And that was something actually that we had a great counselor. She ran the department where my dad, was going through, and she would come in every day and she would talk to us, and she was really like a mother figure,
Wow.
because my mom was halfway around, on the other side of the US, and so
Mm.
she was great.
Well, you're
To,
lucky
yeah.
because there are a lot of people that don't have those resources, particularly the uninsured, the underprivileged in rural areas across the country. So, to have a nurse navigator, to have a therapist, to have a social worker, and these are the things we try to pull out and tease out, even in the documentary, because people don't realize that's a woman that you're obviously think very fondly of who helped you in a very difficult time. And you can imagine that that service is not provided to a host of families. And um, we hope that bringing awareness to that, bringing government federal support for those kind of services, obviously a day like today does help raise awareness. And we just keep moving. We just keep pushing. That's all we can do.
Well, I'm just so thankful for everything that you're doing at Lenox Hill. And do you think there's going to be a season two?
You know, uh, your friends in LA know better than we do. No, but we know that Netflix is very happy. Obviously, it's achieved widespread critical acclaim, which is ultimately what we all care about. Um, there has been a lot of excitement about a season two, so we hope to hear from Netflix soon, and we hope there is. I don't get paid whether there's a season two or not. It's not about the money, and frankly, whether they film me or the next person, we like to tell stories. These are important stories for the public to hear.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, watching the first 10 minutes of Lenox Hill, I was so drawn in, and I couldn't stop watching all the amazing stories from every doctor on the show, and so much love and passion and heart that goes into the day in, day out of what you guys go through, and how much love you put into your patients is just truly, truly unbelievable and so touching.
Well, we have, and I think you bring up a good point, the nurse practitioners, the RNs, the PAs, the respiratory therapists, the social workers, they don't necessarily get the credit, and they deserve it because behind us all are just terrific support staff. And our nurse practitioners, for example, in the Lenox Hill Brain Tumor Center, are as high functioning as the best MD doctors I've ever met. So they can treat glioblastoma from day zero to the end just terrifically. So we're really proud of that skill set.
Well, like I said, and we're so honored to have you on our team for acute glioblastoma. There's been so many comments. People love you. People love your show. They're excited. They're hoping for a season two. I'm hoping for a season two because it's just, like I said, it's amazing what you guys do, and it's a true honor.
Well,
So
thank you. And look, we'll see. We're open to it, obviously, and I know I speak for David Langer and Amanda and Mirtha and Adi and Ruthie, the production company. Your Laurie Films are just terrific. I mean, if you talk about wonderful human beings, they're just absolutely terrific. So we were grateful to participate, and we look forward to more.
yeah, well, I look forward to hopefully meeting you soon and fighting and finding research and raising money for glioblastoma, and raising awareness. Today is, glioblastoma awareness day. So everybody out there, would love for you to, check us out, look at what John's doing. And I'm so thankful for your support. And yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
so once obviously we'll have more in-person kickoffs of the laboratory effort of cure glioblastoma, the biotechnology effort. But people don't realize that even small donations make a big dent. We're very frivolous about money that comes in. There's no administrative overhead. It goes to research, and I'm so proud to partner with Cure Glioblastoma, not only because I happen to know you only sort of invest time and effort into people that you're familiar with. So I do have that familiarity with Sean, and obviously now with you. But just every cent counts, because $10 here, $5 there make a dent when it comes to doing research. It really does.
I completely agree. And for me, you can find you can donate. The links in my bio on my Instagram. So, like John said, any help helps. Whether it's $1, whether it's $100, and it all goes to research for glioblastoma. So, yay. Well,
Yay.
thank you, John. Thank you
Well,
for everything. Thank you for chatting with me. This has
of
been a
course.
true honor. True honor. You made me cry. You made me laugh. So
That
I
was
think
easy,
this was
Barbie.
a
I mean,
successful live.
well, thank you for having me, and we'll be in touch. And obviously, if people want to get in touch with me, I'm always happy to take questions. They can find my email at our Brain Tumor Center email at Lenox Hill Brain Tumor. Go to lennoxhillneurosurgery.org, and we're always here to help. Honestly, we're always here to help.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. Well, enjoy your day at the beach with your girls.
I know it's coming to an end soon.
I know. Well, thank you again for
Thank
chatting
you,
with me,
Barbie.
and I hope to meet you soon.
Okay, me too. Take care.
Bye, John. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.